Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation Minister Betta Idu, President Tinubu does suspend am due to allegation of fraud transfer of cash when they transfer go private account. You get the point now. Meanwhile, since the suspension start yesterday, he don try to go see Mr. President for Abuja. Meanwhile, they don deprive am access to Mr. President. Sit and observe how they take create the humanitarian affairs department and how people don take handle am and how money don take go from one hand to the other for the ministry. Observe. I'll be right back.
As Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta was denied access to President Tinubu at the presidential villa. This vehicle ferried her out of the villa as she was unable to meet with the president.
The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs was established in August 2019, following an executive pronouncement by former President Muhammadu Buhari. Few days later, Sadiya Umar Farouk, a politician from Zamfara State who had worked with Buhari during his days as the now-defunct Congress for Progressive Change, the CPC political party, was appointed as a pioneer minister. Soon after her appointment, a slew of questionable expenditures began. One of the most controversial was a 523.3 million naira spent on feeding basic school pupils at a time schools were not in session because of the COVID-19 lockdown. The ministry had become one of the most well-funded due to the many humanitarian and disaster crises, both natural and man-made, which the country was confronted with. Over 300 billion naira had been appropriated for the ministry since its establishment, aside statutory funding given to the National Social Investment Program Agency. Recent revelation, culminating in the ongoing investigations by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), have shown that much of the funds were not transparently managed. It began with the suspension of the CEO of the National Social Investment Program Agency (NSIPA), Halima Shehu, last Tuesday. Shehu had also served as the National Program Coordinator of the National Conditional Cash Transfer Office under the Buhari administration. She was suspended for allegedly transferring about 44 billion naira from the NSIPA's account to private and corporate accounts, as currently being interrogated by the EFCC over the matter. Following her suspension was the invitation of the former minister, Sadiya Umar Farouk, under whose tenure the ministry received a budget sum of 312 billion naira, which was said to have been spent on poverty alleviation and disaster relief programs. She is said to have reported to the EFCC interrogators after initially seeking a postponement of her invitation date. The petition against her involved money laundering amounting to 37 billion naira. Reports indicate that the monies meant for vulnerable persons were routed through consultants and not directly to the beneficiaries, even though a financial register of vulnerable persons was in the possession of the ministry. It was for this reason that the state governors protested, demanding that intervention funds be handled directly by the state and not through the humanitarian ministry. Just when that was ongoing, a fresh scandal involving the current Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Betta, broke. This involved a linked memo titled Mandate for Payment, which Edu sent to the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, seeking the transfer of the sum of 585,189,500 naira for payment for programs and activities of the Renewed Hope Grant for vulnerable groups. The infringement in the request was that the beneficiary's account name, which the minister asked the payment to be made, was a private individual account of one Onyeola Bridgets, domiciled in UBA. Additionally, the over 500 million naira, according to Edu, was a grant for vulnerable persons, but did not contain any traceable list of who the vulnerable persons were. Shortly after was another linked memo, dated November 6, 2023, where Betta approved funds totaling 72,374,500 million naira for flight tickets and airport taxis for staff of the ministry to go to Kogi State, which has no known airports. bombarded by public demand for accountability. President Bola Tinubu on Sunday, through his information minister, announced his approval of an investigation into the matter. A day later, the president ordered the minister to step aside for a full-scale investigation. The president's action has been commended, coming after similar allegations against persons in the previous administration were either ignored or swept aside.
The diversion of money, is a very bad thing to do by the minister who has just been appointed. And if eventually investigation is being concluded and we find out it is true, the president has taken the right direction and the right step, suspending while investigation is still on, which is a very good thing to do.
The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs has messed up. They need sanity in that ministry, and the ministry is young. So as a result of that, for the record to be set straight, the suspension of the Betta is a good thing.
The president may have laid down a marker that will respond swiftly to public demands for transparent investigation of corruption, but the outcome of the ongoing investigations will determine how much trust Nigerians will have on issues of accountability from the administration.